Okay.
All right. Well, I can call to order this meeting of the Tucson-Pima County Historic Commission Plans Review Subcommittee on Thursday, June 13th, 2024 at 1:01 p.m. And I'll start with a roll call. Terry is absent. Savannah, present. Ricky.
Here.
Joel.
Here.
Andrew.
Here.
Jan.
Here.
Great. We have a quorum. Next item on the agenda, item 2, is approval of the legal action report for the meeting of May 23rd, 2024. Can I have a motion for approval as submitted?
This is Ricky. I move to approve as submitted.
Joel, second.
Great. Well, we'll do another roll call. Vote via roll call. Savannah, vote aye. Ricky?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
Great. Motion passes to approve the minutes. Just keep going along. Item 3 on the agenda is historic preservation zone review cases reviewed under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.00 for historic districts, design guidelines and revised Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines. First case 3A is at 728 East 4th Street, a replacement of windows and restuccoing the exterior. It is a full review in the West University Historic Preservation Zone. It is a contributing resource and beholden to the rehabilitation standards. Jody, do you want to start with a staff report?
Sure. This project was heard by the West University Historic Zone Advisory Board on May 21st. There was a motion to approve the plans and window schedule as proposed, with the exception of windows 9 and 16 to be single large window in the center flanked by casement windows on either side with simulated divided lights included, and windows 10 and 17 to be a pair of double hung windows with a mullion in between with stimulated divided light windows as shown in the plans. It was seconded and approved with a roll call vote of 4-0. The applicant, Brent Jones, is here to present.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
And Jody, didn't we see this once before and it was a violation?
No. Probably another one that was a violation.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. If you want to tell me where you need me to go, Brent.
Oh,
Yeah, we saw this.
Oh yeah, we were waiting for clarification pictures because
Yeah.
the windows had been changed once
Had all the
before.
vinyl windows with the smaller openings and yeah, we saw
Yeah.
it. It was a violation. Yeah, okay, thanks.
And do we have the what our previous motion was? Was it just to get the additional photos? Can we
I don't remember.
get a refresh on what we had requested?
It was hard to forget.
Yeah.
Didn't we want the photos and the original, like what the openings actually were?
Yep.
And
That
what
sounds
windows
familiar.
were going where? Because 2 of the windows are different than the rest of the windows and what they're originally supposed to have in them.
oh, are you asking me?
No, they're asking me.
Okay.
I think that one, we saw one before but it was a duplex that had a bunch of windows and a new door.
Oh, we definitely saw this one. I went out
Okay.
there and we saw the sides, all the windows had been changed out with vinyl that were smaller than the openings.
I got you. Good deal.
So apparently in my old age, I just forget stuff. Yes, you did see it.
And yes, it was a violation.
Yes. And that came about in December, so in December 28th. This is 7/20. 7/28, hold on. Commissioner McDonald removed to recommend continuing the case to allow the applicant to return with revised and corrected elevations with keyed before and after photos is available for each of the window openings and with a proposal to match the operation type, such as putting back double hung where it appears to have existed originally, and provide historically accurate proposal for the two front entry doors. The motion was seconded by Commissioner Rojas and passed with a vote of 6-0. So that was from the 28th. December.
Thank you, because without that continuity, I was kind of wondering about the door too, because I was pretty sure we'd said something.
So let me go back to sharing my screen. Wow. Okay. So Brent, do you want to present now, please?
Yes. Okay. Now, concerning those front two doors, there's a front entry door and there's one adjacent to it, within a couple of feet on the return wall, which is a door into a bedroom. And the homeowner had hired a draftsman that worked on this before I had got it. And he pulled a disappearing act. I don't know if he had medical issues or what. And then that's how I got the job. And I had originally gone off his work. And I called out that one of those doors was filled in way back. Well, it's not filled in. And I actually have since provided photos. When I showed up on the job site, I only photoed the windows, thinking that's all I had to change, and I didn't really pay attention to anything else. And when I saw the draftsman's work that he had done, the one who worked prior to me, I kind of picked up on his work. It proved to be somewhat inaccurate, so I had to go back to the house and photo everything and remeasure everything and correct some work. And so the confusion over the doors, at one point I had called out mistakenly that a door was being filled in. It's not. Those two doors are still there, and I've since provided photos of them. They're not going to change. The windows, however, are all being replaced. Now, the thing is, he had originally, the homeowner, put these vinyl windows in, and they're not the size of the original windows because the originals were manufactured on site, likely. And windows today, as you know, are pre-manufactured. So he just stuck the cheapest thing he could get in there. We're not going that route now. So the plans, as I have them, call out all the replacement windows will be the original sizes of those openings. So nothing will, there's not these arbitrary sizes anymore. And also,
that house, right, it's historical, so they gotta show plans on what they're planning on doing, if they're gonna tear it up or add a wall or anything.
Okay, I muted that guy. Go ahead, Brent.
So yes, all the windows will now be original sizes. I have revised my window schedule, and I also have notations on the floor plan for each window, notating that what the original size is, which matches, of course, what's called out on the windows and doors schedule. Windows will be provided by Pella. The West University Historical Board had suggested that they would like to know who's providing the windows. So I did some research on that. I wasn't really going to do that initially. I was going to let the homeowner shop for them once he had a permit, but that's not the way we wanted to go here. So I did some research and found Pella has a historic line that they will do custom windows. They don't really have a sample they can show because they have to be custom built. So they're not going to be built until the homeowner puts a deposit down. But they will be wood exterior. They're not metal. They're not wood and then exterior metal clad or vinyl clad like they do today. These will be wood exterior, and they will not be divided light because that won't really give you the historic look. They're going to also, divided light does not really have in my opinion, in my estimation, does not have the energy efficiency that windows, you just have a solid pane of glass. And what they do a lot with these modern windows, I guess, is they separate them on the inside, in between the panes of glass. They put these dividers that give you the look of divided lights while maintaining a continuity. And that's not going to get you where you want to be for historic. So these windows will have, they'll be solid panes, but they will have the dividing mullions mounted on the outside. So they have the energy efficiency, but they have the historic look. You'll have the wood separating mullions mounted on the outside. And then, of course, I've got it called out on my plans that those are to be painted to match. Now, even though there's no original windows left on the house, unfortunately, you can see from photos of the house that these popped out sills under the windows, as well as exposed woodwork, as well as low courtyard wall caps. The whole shebang has this brick red accent. So it's presumable that the windows would be that color. You already have that color on the sill pop-outs. And so that would be in keeping with the look of the overall house. It certainly won't be that white vinyl color that's on there now. So that's the deal with the windows. And then also what we're calling out on these plans is a re-stucco job. The stucco will match what's there now, but what's going to happen is the stucco that's there now is dilapidated. It's falling off in some places, so it has to be stripped down to the layment, to the underlayment. And any repairs that need to be done, of course, should be done. And then the stucco texture will be a sand stucco finish to match the existing and painted to color to match the existing. So there won't be any changes to the stucco texture or finish or stucco color. And the windows will have wood exterior in keeping with the historic look of that house, as well as neighboring houses in the neighborhood, and will be painted that brick red color to match the rest of the house accents, which are that color. And with that, I think I'm done as far as I know. If you have any questions, though.
So I'll just point out, per West University, when they looked at it, the windows that they had some proposals to kind of change were 9, 10, 16, and 17. So
That's correct.
So when they were talking about 17 and 10, it was an issue of egress, if I remember correctly, Brent, which is why you put these as casement windows. And so they recommended that it actually just be a casement window, but instead of divided light like this, have a mullion in between. Did I remember that correctly? And then on these 9 and 16, see how it has, I don't, hold on. It is 2 pairs of casements. They had a discussion that this center portion here would be fixed. And then these 2 end pieces would be the casements. That was based on one member's thought on it. I have to say, when I see that set up with the fixed and then the casements flanking it, it tends to be more of a front window. This looks like it's more of a sleeping porch. And I recall, but I couldn't find it, Brent, that before this was replaced, there was a photo that showed this configuration. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so your description of the window changes for 9 and 16 and 10 and 17 match what I understand to be the case. The last statement that you made regarding the photo, I have no idea where it is.
Yeah, I looked through all the photos that you'd submitted, but I recall seeing that photo. And then I just couldn't find it again, but it had this configuration for 9 and for 16.
Okay, so, oh, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I'm just letting them know what was the deal with that. And they will likely have questions for you now.
Okay, so first of all, real quick, if I may, so yeah, 9 and 16, yeah, so a solid glass panel in the center, and then 2 casements at either end, instead of 4 rows of divided light type things, which I'm showing. You have a solid window in the center mass, and then 2 movable panels, casement style, at either end. And then number 10 and number 17 would simply be, you just get that mullion, so it's not divided into 4 sections, it's just dividing into 2. So get rid of those couple of mullions. That's,
yeah, I think the intent with 10 and 17 was to keep them as a casement. This is per West University, to keep them as a casement, but to give them the look of a double hung. So it would have just 1 mullion in between to make look like a double hung window, but still allow egress.
Got it. Okay, so 1 mullion that's horizontal. Yeah, not, okay.
Well, while we have the window picture up, this is Joel. Can I ask what the picture we have in front of us, is that a corrected picture pursuant to WUZAB, or
It is not,
okay?
because
I
you review what West University reviews, because theirs is only a recommendation. So we don't typically have updates in between.
Okay, because I agree with Jody. I think that the double hung is much more in keeping with West University than at least the description we had of these windows.
You mean on 10 and 17? This one, and this one right here.
Yeah.
And I think you mean the look of the double hung, right? Because they need it to be casement for egress, but as long as it looks,
Yeah.
like the, all right.
Yes.
Do you
I
have,
think it's fine as long as it looks like it is. Like, we already know that it's not gonna be the same window because they've all been taken off.
Did you have comments about 9 and this one? And this one, 9 and 16?
yeah, what do you guys think of that?
Well, Jody, I'm with you. I recall seeing a lot more photos last time, and what we asked for was kind of a one-on-one comparison as we worked around the house. There were a whole bunch of random photos submitted, because one question I have right now, I kind of remember that configuration you're talking about, but a question I have now is looking at just the front of the house, why there are all these windows with mullions unless there's evidence that that's what they were before.
On the front of the house?
Well, no, the front doesn't show any, and it looks like they're leaving it that way. But I didn't hear a line connecting the rationale for the mullions on the sides. I thought we'd seen some photos, and part of it was trying to get a sense of what had been there and what goes in. And so without seeing what was there before, it just seems kind of random that they picked somewhere the mullions are going in, but then most of them don't have mullions, which is consistent with the front.
Yeah, and that's why, there was questions about 10 and 17, because they were questioning about where the mullions came in, and that's why they are suggesting just to have one right across the middle.
Got
So
it.
it still operates like a casement, but it looks
Yeah,
like,
okay. And so then the only other ones are those four, the ones with the four verticals.
yeah, the 9
Okay.
and the 16. So in my experience, it's not uncommon to have something like if it was a sleeping porch or something like
Right,
that,
right.
that has this configuration, even if everything else is double hung.
No, that I get, and I'm with you. I feel like we saw something. now we
Can I
have
screen
less-
share because I just found it?
Oh, good, because we have less documentation than we had last time and we were asking for more.
Yeah.
Wait, Savannah, let me make you the co-host.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just, and it's all flooding back, and I remember you just, I think while we were meeting on this last time, you sent us an email of a whole bunch of them, so I just found it.
I swear I looked everywhere for that freaking photo and I couldn't find it. I was like,
Well, there were a whole bunch of them, yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
oh,
here
but
we are.
This is actually, it's still casement, but it's not as many divided lights.
Right, so that's where, it seems like keeping it simple like it was would make more sense.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to match as close as we have documentation of, right? And then where we don't have documentation, make our best assumptions.
So that was our request before, say, okay, here's this window, whatever it is, here's what's being proposed.
Let me see, I'm looking through the other photos to see if we have any. The other photos you sent in this package of photos, I think were all after the vinyls went in.
That window
Oh.
looks like that's what window number 10, right? We don't have one for the window number 17.
I'm looking.
I do think I saw one with more mullions, but again, I couldn't find it. And maybe I was looking in the wrong spot.
The only other one I found that is prior, I think I have to.
I mean, this just seems more consistent with everything else we've seen so far in the house.
This is the only other one I found that is prior to the vinyl.
Yeah,
bit
that
hard
looks
to
like
see.
it just maybe has one right across.
Kind of similar to the other one.
Regardless, it's still not a fixed pane in the middle, flanked by a casement on the side. So.
This is Joel Savannah. The picture you showed us is it your feeling that that's consistent with West University historical atmosphere?
Yeah,
Because
I mean, it's
I
not
think so
too
too.
dissimilar from what he's showing. It just has fewer mullions or
Yeah.
fewer divided
It's
Right.
also
lines.
I
like
agree
in the
with you.
backyard, so it's at least historically matching the house and not directly visible from the street.
But it seems like it's like the one modification they recommended with just having the one horizontal mullion, that those are a series of casements with just that one divide
Mhm.
and not having it all broken up beyond that.
I'm guessing since West University didn't have access to this photo, you know, that they were
Yeah,
trying to make some assumptions or, you know, a best guess about what that configuration is. But since we have the photo, maybe we can propose something different, right?
Right.
Well, do you guys have more questions for our applicant?
this is Jan. I just had one question and comment about the front door, which is clearly a replacement door. And I think that's what I recall we were getting at when we made our motion before for the continuance, that it seemed like it would be preferable to see a more historically accurate front door. The photo, I think, on the nomination form looked like it just showed something also more recent, probably like a single pane French door like the back doors, side doors have. But even that seems preferable to what's on there right now.
Trying to find a
Oh,
photo of that. Do you guys have that able to?
The front
Pull up.
door or the
I'm
The
looking
one-
it up too.
Yeah.
one that's there right now?
Mm-hmm.
The first, let's see. And it's just one of those, I don't know what you even call it. It's got a semicircle on top that's
It's
got web.
neo,
What's that?
it's neo-colonial.
Yeah, something. And then the door going into bedroom is in more of an is like a single panel or it's paneled on the base and then maybe 4 panes on the top of the door on the right. So it seems compatible, but that front
Yeah.
door just was slapped in there, I think, probably by the current owner.
Is there, I mean, I think in our previous motion, we had asked for a
Right.
proposed replacement of that. Is that in this application?
No, I think this is all about the windows. There's no mention of doors.
He indicated at the beginning that he wasn't replacing the doors on this one, they were gonna stay there. And it was just about the windows and the stucco.
And our motion had asked to come back on the doors too.
It looks like the door got changed sometime between like what 2011 and 2013.
Can we ask him to do anything with the door since it's not in the scope of this submittal?
Well, we could continue it again. We asked him to come back with door stuff.
You're
I don't know
that-
why, I don't know
I
why
get-
the whole,
You're
there's,
asking the applicant to do work that he is no longer going to do. If he does work in the future on the doors, then he has to come back.
That's what I
well,
was
but
asking.
Jody, I mean, we had a motion and he came back like non-responsive. So then all of a sudden, and it's like, well, that's not what he's gonna do.
He's leaving the doors alone though. So
Right,
it's not,
but he's not responding to our motion. I mean, it just sounds like kind of things got dropped. I mean, our motion wasn't even in the record. And the fact that we'd seen it wasn't in the record. So I mean, it's like, I don't feel like it's fair to just say, well, he's not doing the door.
people change their scope of work all the time though.
But this is a violation. It's not just a clean scope of work.
It's a violation for the windows, but the doors got changed in between 2011 and 2013. We can revisit the doors and we can have code enforcement go out there and say, hey, you know, these doors were not approved. But if the doors are not in his scope right now, you're reviewing the windows and the stucco.
Well, it seems like we're left on cleanup. I'm sorry. It's like, when he came back in, there was no mention of it.
He mentioned it in his presentation at the beginning.
Oh, just that he wasn't doing doors, but not, oh, you guys asked me to look at doors, but we're not. It's kind of like it just disappeared.
What was the reason given for they're not changing the door anymore?
Brent, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I can lend some input to it. It's not going to be much though. I don't know when or if that door was replaced or changed. The client never addressed that with me. The only real experience I have with the doors is that I paid them no attention when I went out to the site to measure and take photos. I only paid attention to the windows. And there was a draftsman who worked on this job before me, and he kind of left the client, the homeowner, hanging. And so I was brought in to finish the job. And when I did so, I looked at the partial plans that he had that were never completed. But one of the things that showed was that there was apparently the side door was being filled in. And later it came to pass, in fact, West University called me on that. He says, well, you know, provide photos because my plan said that the door had been filled in. It's not was going to be. I called out on the plans that it was. And then I had to go back to the site. Initially, I didn't pay attention to doors because I wasn't asked to do anything with them. So I didn't take photos. I didn't, nothing. I went back out there and lo and behold, the door is still there. So I had to modify my plans, but that's concerning the side door. The front door, which we're talking about today, it clearly looks like it could use a coat of paint to match the rest of the house. But in terms of the style of the door, not in keeping, as you're suggesting, may very well be the case. I don't know. I don't have any information on it. I've never heard. So, I mean, I would have to actually ask the homeowner.
Fred, I'm sorry, you were the presenter last time. And we made a motion that referred to the doors. So to kind of say somehow you don't know and you inherited this, to not even come back and close the loop and say, here's why or what. It just.
Well, yeah, but the motion that was made concerning the doors, as far as I understood it, was concerning my call out on the plans that the side door was being filled in. I am unaware of any motion that said that the front door was inappropriate. I just know that I had to rectify the thing on my plans, which showed that the side door was being filled in when in fact it's not being filled in, was filled in, when in fact it's actually still there. So West University called me out on that, and I didn't have any photos of it, so I had to go out there and look at it. And indeed, it's still there. So I modified my plans, but there's no disingenuousness on my part. I'm not trying to cover up I was unaware that I needed to do anything with the front door.
So,
the only
to confirm,
yeah.
Sorry, Jody, just to confirm, there's no, because it is a code violation case, there's nothing in that violation that relates to the doors?
As I recall, it's all the windows and the stucco.
I'm looking on Pro and I don't see any violations. I see under the plans tab, it references a zoning violation, but I don't see any information beyond that.
Yeah, it's non-descriptive.
Yeah.
There may be a record somewhere, but we don't have access to it.
Well, I guess we just need to know what is in our purview before we
So
provide a motion.
changed the scope between last time to this time, and now there's no doors included. That means our motion can only include the windows and the stucco. Is that right, Jody?
Correct. And then, you know, if the doors come up to be an issue later, they wanna change them, they would have to come back through the process.
Well, they don't want to change it, so that's not. That's what's so goofy about all this.
Well, so we're seeing this because there is a zoning violation. So I think we just need to understand what's actually in that violation and what the scope of that is, right?
Could you pull that up, Jody?
I was looking at it. Sometimes I'm blocked just like you are.
And then part of it's probably they got sent out and whoever's doing the code violation doesn't even know what. It's just the windows were so obvious.
Sorry, I'm not, we just have windows and stucco, actually. That's what I'm seeing, which is kind of funny. Not funny, haha. Cause when I pull it up, it's actually not coming up as a. I've not seen any DV, which is code enforcement. So I think it may have been, he may have been not reported, but caught, and we had Rick Saldate go out. And that's how it stopped, so it may have not actually had a formal complaint. I'm just guessing on this. Cause I'm not seeing it. Hello? Oh, are you all still there?
Yeah.
We're still here, just trying to figure out what we need to do to move it forward.
I would say, I mean, so what I'm seeing is just the window and stucco compliance and not on the door. You can make a comment about the doors, like, you know, if the doors are changed, they have to come back or something along those lines. You know, the doors as they currently are not appropriate and should be considered for replacement. And if that's the case, they need to come back through for review. You can include that in a motion. I'm not wordsmithing it, I'm just throwing stuff out. That way, kind of addressing the loop, addressing the issue.
Yeah, I think I agree with that without any sort of concrete, you know, wording in the violation that references the doors. I don't think it's reasonable for us to ask him to do anything with them.
Well, it sounds like we have no authority, but I also think it's reasonable to call it out.
Yeah,
If we notice
yeah.
there's something amiss, and just because in the chaos or being obscured by everything else that was going on, it didn't come up. It seems reasonable to call it out.
I mean, I think in our purview, we could ask code enforcement to go back out and look at the doors, right? And I mean, I kind of hate to do that since they're not changing them, but I think we would.
I mean, we can look, I mean, if it was that long ago, Michael can look to see if there were permits for that. Way back when, he'll probably have to dig around for a while. If not, then, you know, we can have code enforcement go out there to address the doors.
All right, well, Andrew or Jan, do you want to capture all that in a motion, including?
Yeah, can we pull up the elevations again so I can make sure I have everything?
Yeah.
Just a minute. I have 50 million tabs open. So it takes me a second.
And I was wondering, is the other thing on the West University motion, if we want 9 and 16 to read like 10 and 17? Is that where we landed?
So I think 10 and 17 we were okay with, right? With the
recommendation.
yeah. So that the 10 and 17 would be mold casements with a horizontal muntin.
I think there's a pair of double hung windows with a mullion in between, but not the divided lights.
Oh,
I think there's still
those had,
casements.
yeah, they had to be casement for egress, right? 10 and 17.
No, that was 9 and 16, I thought.
I thought it was 10 and 17. Does the applicant, can they clarify that?
Their motion said double hung, but that's,
Here's their motion, so 9 and 16 to be single large window in the center flanked by casement windows on either side. 10 and 17 to be a pair, oh, well, never mind. A pair of double hung windows with a mullion in between. With simulated divided lights as shown on the plans. That's the motion.
and so that's
Can
like
the applicant
nothing.
clarify if 10 and 17 need to be casement?
I can offer you something on that. So here's the thing. If we want the look of windows 10 and 17 to be as though they are a couple of double hungs side by side, they don't need to be casement style windows made to look as though they're double hungs. They can actually be double hung. The code that I have to make sure I stay within is that because each room on this house only has basically 1 or 2 windows, pretty much every window is an emergency egress window. And so what you have to satisfy is a minimum net clear opening of 5 square feet so that a child can get out of a burning house, and also a maximum sill height above the floor of 44 inches. That can be satisfied with either double hung or casement. So if we want to take the look of the windows, numbers 10 and 17, and make it, if we feel it's more appropriate for the historical designation, what we're trying to accomplish, to make those windows a couple of adjacent double hungs by putting a horizontal divider instead of the way I have it drawn now, we don't have to keep them as casements and make them look double hungs. We could actually just make them double hung if we wanted to go that route.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. I think I understand that. And then on 9 and 16, West University was recommending a casement on either end with a fixed window in the middle.
Correct.
Sounds
as I
like
understand it.
those could be just double hung too, right? Or not? They're
I
even
think-
bigger.
I think 9 and 16 are probably fine the way that they're drawn, because that seems to match generally what's there. And then 10 and 17 should be changed to double or single hung, a pair of double hung windows mold together.
Well, I still have a question. That picture that Jody showed us, so which I take to be more like 9 or 16, just showed a single divide through each of those, and it wasn't all divided up. And then likewise on 10 and 17, I'm not sure where the impetus for additional mullions is coming from.
Yeah, so I think we'll take all of those divided lights out. So 9 and 16 would just have a single divided light down, horizontally across the middle. And then 10 and 17 would have no divided lights because they would be single or double hung.
Right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
Okay, that sounds fine.
And apologies, I think I messed that up when I said casements with a mullion in between. I misspoke.
So now what are you talking about?
10 and 17, so, during the previous discussion.
Oh,
I'm just-
okay, got it. Okay. So we'd be recommending for 10 and 17 as West University, but not any simulated divided lights.
Sounds like it, yes.
And then,
I don't actually think that's true. They wanted a center, right? Operating double hung.
pair of double hung windows with a mullion in between. So I think they were just saying they couldn't be squished together. Is that
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
so
so
two
they-
separate windows.
Okay.
yeah. Mhm.
And then 9 and 16 would be pretty much a series of what? 4 casement windows with a horizontal divider, one
Yeah.
horizontal divider.
Yeah. Mhm. I think that's, yeah, I think we're all on the same page. Okay,
Sounds good. So are you
yeah, I can
prepared
make a
to make a
motion.
motion, Andrew? Thank you.
Sure. All right, on the matter of SD 092300099728 East 4th Street, I make a motion to approve the windows and stucco as submitted with the following exceptions. The windows 10 and 17 be double hung windows with no divided lights and a vertical mullion separating the two. And then windows 9 and 16 should be 2 pairs of casement windows side by side with a single horizontal divided light.
You want to say something about the doors?
Oh,
Or
and
the
that,
front door, yeah.
and that we advise replacement of the front door with a more period correct style.
All right. Do we have a second?
This is Joel, I'll second it.
All right. Now we can discuss. Ricky, did you have something?
Yeah, I thought we couldn't recommend the replacement of the door since it's technically not in our purview for this one, but we could just tell Jody to have code enforcement check it out.
No, I mean, you can,
I think we can recommend it, but I think for anything to actually happen, we would have to have a violation on it for it to come to us for a formal review, right?
maybe instead of saying advise, you can say, consider replacement of the front door with a more historically appropriate door. Which basically is more of a encouraging, but not a requirement.
Well, and we could also say we ask the city to check the front door for compliance.
You can include that too in your motion. You would have to amend your motion to include that. Last part.
Both parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
You want to amend your motion, Andrew?
yeah, I can. Just so I have the wording on that last part. How do we want to say that? We asked that the applicant consider replacement of
A more historically appropriate door or something. And that the city review the door for
Compliance.
compliance. The existing door, I guess.
Okay. All right, I'll try and read this back then. On the matter of SD 092300099728 East 4th Street, we recommend approval of the stucco and windows as submitted with the following conditions. That windows 10 and 17 be double hung with no divided lights and a vertical mullion in between. That windows 9 and 16 be pairs of casement windows with no divided lights and a single horizontal divided light. And that the applicant consider replacement of the exterior doors with more historically appropriate options, and that the city and code enforcement review the exterior doors for compliance.
And I'll accept those amendments.
Great. Okay. Well, I think we are, is there any discussion before a vote?
About the only point I guess I'd make, I think, is really we're only talking about the front door. Not
Did I
the,
interject?
yeah. Go ahead, Brent.
Oh, I would interject something here. Okay. Well, first of all, a question. If this is approved pending the changes to the windows as we've discussed them, will it require me to draw the changes on the plans and do a resubmittal for a following historic meeting, or is it something the inspector will simply look at when he shows up on the site? How does it work? And
Brent.
the reason I ask, because if it's going to involve a redraw to submit for the next historic meeting, I might as well just talk to the homeowner, who's probably not going to mind the idea of replacing the door because it looks like it's old. If I have to do a redraw on the plans, not that I want to, but if I have to, I might as well prepare to have the door in there the way we want it. But if it goes that route, what I would want to do is talk with Jody or somebody and have somebody recommend to me what they think instead of trying to take a best guess and it be wrong. Have some guidance. Somebody
I
to
think
tell
we
me
have
what
to finish our vote on this because we're in the middle of making a vote, and then Jody can answer your question about next steps.
Okay, very good.
All right, we'll vote via roll call. Savannah, I say aye. Ricky?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
All right, well, motion passes. Thank you guys, but Jody, do you want to answer the applicant's question?
So Brent, at this time, they have voted to recommend approval with the changes that they discussed. That recommendation with the proposed conditions will be forwarded to the director of PDSD along with the recommendations that were provided by West University. The director will issue a decision letter, and then from the date of that decision letter, there will be a 14-day appeal period that you or the property owner could appeal, or PRS or West University can appeal. If one of them decides to appeal, West University or the Plans Review Subcommittee, they will have to have a special meeting to discuss the appeal, and they will have to vote on the appeal. If they opt to appeal, they get the votes, then it goes to mayor and council for approval or to uphold the appeal or not. If there's no appeals, then you will need to revise your plans per the conditions noted in the decision letter and submit those. Staff will then review the plans when it comes back through the permitting process to make sure that those conditions are addressed on the plans. If they're not, we will make you redraw and resubmit until they're correct for the conditions.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, that sounds good. A couple of questions though, Jody. Let's see here. So it goes to the director of PDS. What does PDSD stand for? I've been wondering for the longest time.
Planning and Development Services Department.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I guess I could have guessed that. All right. So let's see. What is the time frame typical to issue that letter? I know there's a 14-day period following the letter for appeal period, but how long does it typically take to issue the letter? I just want to give the homeowner a heads up because we're getting close here.
We try to get the letters out and signed letters out within 2 weeks. That's what we shoot for.
Okay, cool. All right. I think that answers it. Good. Then what I'll do is I'll talk with the homeowner, find out if he wants to replace the door anyway, because it sounds like it's going to be an issue that's going to come up at some point. And if so, I'll give you folks a call and try to get some guidance on what the appropriate door would be. But in the meantime, I'll just hang loose.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks again. All right, so let's move on to our second case. 3B at 924 North 6th Avenue. Another window replacement project in West University, full review, and it's a contributing resource. So Jody, do you want to give us a report on this one?
Yes, this one was also heard on May 21st at West University Historic Zone Advisory Board. They made a motion to approve Pella double hung aluminum clad windows at all locations, with the exception of the third floor west dormer windows, which shall be Pella casement fixed style aluminum clad windows. It was approved with a roll call vote of 4-0. Don Leakey, the property owner, is here. And Don, do you still want me to share my screen?
Yes, that would be fine. I'm not exactly sure what additional information you have. What you just stated is basically what this is about.
No, you need to go through and discuss. They have not seen your project.
Okay.
So you wanna go through like you did with West University and just kind of talk about the house and the why you're changing them and all that other stuff.
Sounds good. Okay, so this is a house that was built in 1915. It is 3-level, a large house. It has 44 windows in it. On floors, it's 3 floors, 3 levels. On floors 1 and 2, these are the original 1915 windows. Floor 3 was a renovation in 1992. And so those are slightly newer, but they're still a bit old. All of them are single pane. Many of them don't work. Some of them have, they don't close real well. And so they're very energy inefficient. So our proposal is to replace all of these with new double pane windows. These also would be Pella, as you heard from the previous person. These will be wood clad. So they're aluminum clad on the outside and they're wood on the inside. They are double hung. All of them would be double hung. Well, I should back up a second here. 37 of them would be double hung. On the 3rd floor, there is a dormer that was built out in the 1992 renovation on the west side of the building. And those windows are casement windows currently. So when in discussions with the West University, they suggested that we should stay with casement windows there so that they would be distinctive from the other windows in the house, which is the way it is now. So those would be casement windows. Not all of them would open. What we would suggest is some of them would be fixed and some of them would be open instead of having them all open. So let's see, I think we said 1, 2, 3 fixed and the rest of them would open. All of them would be white. I mentioned double pane, so we get the energy efficiency that we want to have. What we're going to do here is not impact the exterior trim of the house, because that's where the historic style of the building is more demonstrated. So instead, these are really window inserts where you pull out from the inside, pull out the current windows and slide in this window insert. So from the outside, nothing would change. Yeah, that's basically what would be done here. So it's reasonably straightforward. It is just a lot of windows that need to be replaced.
All right, so can you take us through, is there an inventory of or elevations of everything? I mean, I was curious if
there is
what West University proposed for the casement, is that different from what you had proposed?
Yeah, so on the dormer that comes out, I originally had just thought that it would make more sense to have those also as double hung, so the entire house would look the same. And the recommendation from West University is that since that was built out at a later date, 1992, that it should not look exactly the same as the rest of the house. So instead, it would be the casement windows. So on that third floor dormer on the west side, only that, we would stay with casement windows on that particular spot.
Okay, thanks. Who wants to go first with any questions?
I just have one question. So you're talking about those windows on the front that are not going to open?
Yeah.
The windows that are existing now, do those not open, or are those fully working windows and that's a change you're making?
Let's see. I believe all of them open now. Correct. And we could make them all open. It's just, it didn't seem that it was essential when you have 7 windows. It's 2 on each side and 3 on the front part of it. It didn't seem essential that they would all crank open, and that, you know, there could be a fixed window also. So I could go either way there, but it just seems like they don't all have to open up.
Okay, thank you.
Who else? Joel, do you have any?
No, I really don't. I mean, it's a replacement windows. I do agree with West University's assessment of the dormer addition, so.
Okay, thanks. Andrew?
No, I don't have anything.
Jan?
I also agree with support the West University comment about casements above to differentiate on the third floor. To Ricky's question about opening and closing, I don't think I have a strong feeling about it. But unless they're really just the same windows that are somehow fixed to not open, the look is going to be slightly different. So I guess I just, yeah, I kind of question that.
The windows will look identical. It's just that some of them would open up, would crank open, and the others wouldn't. But again, I can go either direction.
These are double. Yeah, we're talking about the double hung windows, right? Or are you talking about the casements?
No, we're talking about the casement windows on the third floor.
Okay, got it. Okay, well, I don't have really any concern about that then. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I just had one more question about the application materials, because we might have gotten material that was maybe before the decision to do aluminum clad, because I clicked on like proposed window under this item, and it shows a fiberglass window. So
right.
Oh.
That was the original proposal that we put in, was to do a fiberglass instead.
Okay.
And that was quickly rejected.
Okay.
I guess I'd say. And so instead we have the clad wood, so aluminum clad wood instead. So the latest proposal is the aluminum clad. Okay.
Yeah, it was just confusing. But thank you for clarifying that. All right, so any final questions? What are you guys feeling about a motion?
The motion would just be as presented, with the third floor being casement, right? Just we'd be agreeing with the neighborhood. And
I guess if the plans differ, I guess we could also clarify that the windows are all as discussed, which was wood with aluminum clad exterior.
The second proposal that I sent in, Jody, did have that specified, that it was.
Yeah, I thought I saw them somewhere.
Yeah.
It's when you get multiple proposals, sometimes other information slips in, but then because you guys haven't reviewed it, you need the other information that was there previously. So apologies, but yes.
So do we have to clarify what as submitted is, or do we know that the last ones that came in are the default?
I would just note that if you recommend approval, that it's for the aluminum clad wood windows as approved by West University,
Got it.
just to be clear.
That sound good to you, Jan? Can you make that?
Yeah, I thought I heard Ricky doing it, but I'm happy either
okay.
way. So Ricky, were you poised or do you
Oh.
want me to?
I can. I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
Well, I'll
I-
go.
Okay, I can just do it. So
I'm looking at their submittal and they're also, let's see.
yeah, so just we have to specify that's wood with aluminum clad exterior and that the third floor windows will be casement. And is there anything else?
If
That's
you're
it.
good
I think
with
that's
some of
good.
them being fixed, maybe two as presented, right? There's some question about operability.
Yeah.
That sounds like that's how you prepared the plans, is that correct?
Actually, I didn't specify in the plans
Okay.
that whether they'd be fixed or
Okay.
open. We just specified that they would be casement windows, and obviously
Okay,
we'd want some of them to open.
so maybe we should just say, yeah.
And you're having 3 of them be fixed on that third floor, is that correct?
Yeah. The idea would be it's 2 on each side and 3 in the front. So let's see, we would have 1 fixed on each side and 1 on the front, and the rest would be open.
So 4.
3 fixed, 4 open is what that would
Okay,
be.
3 fixed. Okay, I'm ready then. So on the matter of SD-324-00026, 924 North 6th Avenue, we recommend to approve as presented with the first and second floors being wood with aluminum clad exterior windows and the third floor being casement windows comprised of 3 fixed windows and 4 opening windows.
If I could just make a comment, the third floor is just the dormer that has the casement windows, but the other 3 sides of the third floor would also be double hung, which is what is their current.
I'm gonna retract that. I'm just gonna also I have to specify dormer then.
So
You
the
can
third floor,
specify the 1992.
Okay.
yeah.
Well,
addition.
it's the 19. Okay, let me try to clarify. 1992 to renovation was the entire third floor, and then on the north, south, east sides, those are double hung windows. The dormer, which was new, built out to the west, that is the those are the casement windows. So I guess basically it's casement windows for the entire house with the exception of the dormer on the third floor, which would be, I'm sorry, double hung with the entire house with the exception of the third floor dormer, which would be casement. That would be the clarification, I believe.
Okay.
I would say you could just restart, Ricky. We haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna start again. So motion to approve as presented with the of the wood with aluminum clad windows and the dormer on the third floor having casement windows comprised of 3 fixed and 4 opening.
We have a second.
This Joel second.
All right. Any discussion?
Just referring to the initial windows as double hung, the wood and aluminum clad. I think that got dropped on the
Oh yeah.
restate.
Double hung wood with aluminum clad exterior.
Are you okay with that change, Joel?
Yes, I am.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take vote via roll call. Savannah, I say aye. Ricky?
Aye.
Joel?
Yes.
Andrew?
Aye.
Jan?
I
All right, motion passes. Any further instruction, Jody, for the applicant?
No, Don, you were listening when I was talking to Brent, right?
Right.
Okay.
Thanks
Then
for
you-
a submittal too.
If you have any questions, you can just shoot me an email. And
Okay.
otherwise, we'll be working on the decision letter.
Okay, that sounds great. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, third case is 3C at 941 North 4th Avenue. Modification to doors, new sidewalk, landscape, and bike racks. It's a full review in West University Historic Preservation Zone and a contributing resource at the park. So do you want to give us a report, Jody, on this one first?
Sure. This was also heard at the May 21st West University Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting. And they made a motion after much discussion, a motion to approve the plans as presented. And the motion was approved 3-1. There was a person who did not approve the plans. Matt, which one of you, Matt or Tim Smith, which one of you are gonna share your screen?
I will, Matt Smith.
Okay, and I will make you co-host.
And Jody, you know, we didn't get plans or anything unless they got posted at the last minute.
They linked them under, like, it's not linked under in a separate point. It's like the actual address you have to click on, link to the
Yeah.
plans.
Oh.
Yeah, it's different from every other thing that's been posted.
I wouldn't have even thought about that. Thank you. I'll remember to look.
Okay, all right, now Matt, you're a co-host.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here on behalf of the city of Tucson. The project manager for this project is Donnie Russell, who's on the call, and the architect is Tim Smith with Swaim Associates. We have been hired to look at this park and address the existing restroom building as part of Proposition 407. So that states that the existing restroom building become ADA compliant. So this project is not windows, but it will be about the doors. So this project on the north elevation and south elevation, the doors do not change. Any of that facade does not change. The addition or the alterations are on the east and west elevations. So on the east and west elevations, we are proposing removing each of the 2-foot wide doors and replacing one of them with a 3-foot wide door to gain that accessibility aspect. As part of that, the existing fencing where it returns to the middle of the building will now need to return to the south of the building. So there's some slight alterations to the fence layout. Any of the fence changes will be in kind, same materials, same style, same height. As far as the doors, again, those will be in kind, more representing the doors on the north and south elevations. It will be a solid steel hollow core door. And then the last change is for the concrete on the north side of the building. So around the building itself, we propose removing the existing concrete, and that's to do utility work, put new sewer lines, water lines into the building. The concrete will be replaced with a color best matching. And then we are proposing, instead of the bike racks as shown in the bottom left picture being in a half circle, they would just be in a linear alignment. On the next sheet, this is showing the proposed elevations. So the east and west elevations, as I mentioned, the two 2-foot wide doors go away, and one of them is replaced with a 3-foot wide door. One of the existing 2-foot wide doors gets infilled, but the infill is recessed, so you still get the presence that the door was there. All the stucco would be to match the existing, all the paint would be to match the existing. And then the last aspect of this project and it's best shown in the top left and bottom right photos. There are about 14 oleanders throughout the park. We were proposing removing these and replacing them with more of a more friendly planting, probably a Chinese pistache or something that will actually provide shade within the park. Proposed materials, left picture showing that Chinese pistache. There are some existing agaves in the way of where the fence will realign. Those would get removed and replaced with medicinal aloe. As I mentioned, fence modifications would be in kind, same size posts, rails, pickets, paint would match existing, and then the existing doors again would match in kind. It's going through it pretty quick. Tim, do you have anything to add?
No, not specifically. I think that covers it well.
I think with that, I'll turn it over to Gordon. Any questions?
This is Andrew. Are you all replacing, it looks like there's a gate on one side of the building here. Are you replacing that?
In a sense, yes. If it can be reused, we'll reuse it. Otherwise, we'll rebuild it exactly as it stands. But that gate would be part of the fence relocation towards the south, return to the building.
Okay.
Who else has questions? Jan?
Yeah, so the fence is essentially, the doors to the restrooms will be outside the pool area, is that
Correct.
what you're saying? Okay,
Yes.
okay. And I have a question for Jody. Did this go to Historic Landscapes?
This did not. It's pretty limited, the work they're doing, so.
Well, it is limited, but just the choice of replacement. I mean,
Yeah,
that just,
there's planting material proposed,
yeah, I
which
mean,
we can't
yeah,
we can't evaluate here.
yeah.
And you said
And-
it's 14 trees?
14 oleanders per pistache, and then I think you said agave to aloe.
That's just kind of a
Right.
lot of trees.
Seems like it, I mean, they can review it quickly, but anyway, that's my opinion. And then I'm sure the city's well aware of it, but I walked by this morning and it was kind of a nice public amenity. There was somebody bathing in it, in the pool. So kind of a sad commentary, but the guy was pretty happy.
And I forgot to mention one thing. Existing stall count is 4. This would be reducing from 4 stalls to 2 stalls.
One on each side then, or 2 on each side? Or
One on
no,
each
one on
side.
each side, got it.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, because of
effectively.
the accessibility. That
Exactly.
makes
Yep.
sense. Yeah. Okay. So that's the only thing I would suggest that it go to Historic Landscapes, but that's my only comment. Otherwise, I'm comfortable with the proposal.
Ricky?
I am just looking something up real quick. Oh, is there a reason that the red pistache was chosen and not an actual native Arizona plant?
So red push pistache are an adapted native in a sense. They are grown just in Marana for majority of the country. So they do really well in this environment and they provide the most shade. Some of the true natives like hackberry either grow too slow. Ash are susceptible to different insects. So we try to choose one that's adapted to here, will grow fast and provide shade and is readily available.
Okay.
Is there a precedence for that tree in this area or neighborhood or park?
Not that I know of. They
So
are
part
found
of
throughout.
the reason for going to Historic Landscapes is to have the conversation about, balancing native, balancing the look and feel of what's been there historically. I have no idea what the history of the oleanders are there, but to have people with more, even though I sit on the committee, I am not a landscape person. But having that conversation with people that are a little more familiar with the plant material choices and trade-offs and historically to what they've been.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Jan.
Yeah, I know oleanders also aren't native to here. And they're also poisonous, but I don't know. I feel like if you're taking out full-grown trees and putting in other trees, I'd like to see actually native plants to Tucson, not just hybrids.
And we can definitely explore other options. I think the other thing to note is this tree replacement is not part of the proposition and not part of our scope of services. It was just something that we were throwing out there on site as an observation that maybe we should remove these oleander that aren't providing shade and can be poisonous. And on our documents, it just has a bid alternate. So if it's going to be a contentious point, we can easily remove it.
I don't think it's really contentious. It's just having it go to people that could have a more informed conversation with you about it. That's all. And it might be to your benefit as well.
Maybe not contentious, but just ease of moving this along.
Well, again,
right,
I mean, yeah.
Those were my questions though. So if Andrew or Joel has anything.
Yeah, Joel, do you?
Just a brief comment on the oleanders. They are horrible plants, and thank you for removing them. This is the park that I go to on a regular basis, and they're just horrible. And the second thing is, a lot of people do their laundry in this area too. And thirdly, do you know the reason that there was a dissenting vote on the WUZAB committee? What was their problem? Or was there a problem? I don't know.
There was, so the reason that they're changing up the doors is to make it ADA accessible. And one of the members was concerned about the change in the doors, and wanted some other options. So that they could leave the existing doors there. Really, that's what it came down to. And so he ended up being a dissenting vote because he didn't want to approve it in its current configuration.
I got you. Well, I like the proposal, so I'm gonna vote for changing the doors. Okay, I just wondered what it was. Okay, thank you.
Are the existing doors also metal?
Yeah,
Or they
currently
wood?
they're hollow
Yeah,
metal.
yeah, they're just
Okay.
old metal doors, you know, there's nothing to them.
But they're very narrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think there's kind of a general consensus here. Is there any other comment or questions you guys have, or?
So the applicant has spoken about removing the landscaping as an item, and then if they opt to change landscaping because it's a bit alternate, that they would then have to go to the landscape subcommittee to do that, but if it's I'm just preemptively, if you're thinking about continuing it.
I think it sounds like we're in support of what all the work, including removing the oleanders. We can't provide evaluation of the selected tree because that's not our purview. So that's why I think Jan suggested it go to a group with more experience.
And I mean, if they're truly removing it, if the plans aren't getting approved with the landscaping, I mean, that's fine.
What would be the timeline, Jody, of taking it by landscapes?
No control over.
Well, I can tell you, there is now a standing meeting that's been on the fourth Thursday before PRS. But as Steve said in the last meeting, we don't currently have one scheduled for July because of the conference, but that we can pretty much, it's a small group, and he works, if there's a project that wants to get in, he pretty much schedules a meeting if people are available. So it's not usually a big wait to get in.
Does it have
But then
to come
you're
back?
proposing that the applicant comes back to PRS?
I don't think he has to come back.
I mean, we could say we're comfortable if Historic Landscapes is comfortable, if that's agreeable to you, Jody. I don't.
I would just, yeah, and I think that that's fine. What happened to the screen? I
If it were
would,
if it were a bigger deal, like they were removing older trees that had been, you know, then maybe it would be like, go to them, come back to us. But it
So-
seems like, yeah.
so if I can make a recommendation to consider for consideration, whoever is doing the motion, that since it's a bid alternate right now for the oleander removal and the installation of the pistache push, that if you recommend approval as it is, and then if they do any landscape work, that they would then have to go to get that approved by the landscape subcommittee, and since you guys were okay with it, they wouldn't have to come back to you at that point, solely landscape.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's good. The
No, I'm
building,
not making the motion though.
I get it.
No, in this case, I'd be comfortable with that as well. But that's easy for me to say.
Sounds good. You want to do that then, Jim?
Sure. Let's see. In the matter of item SD-0324-00025 at 941 North 4th Avenue, we recommend approval of the modifications as presented, with the exception of the landscaping, which is not currently part of this plan. If landscaping changes are pursued, we recommend it go to Historic Landscape Subcommittee for review.
Second,
All right,
is Joel, second?
great. And any discussion, comments? Okay,
To clarify, if landscaping is proposed, they will go to the landscape subcommittee, but they do not have to return to PRS.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
don't think I heard that, but
You didn't, but yeah,
should we
I'm
add
comfortable
that?
with that.
please add that.
okay.
Modifying the motion to say that if landscaping changes are pursued, that go to Historic Landscape Subcommittee for review, and in this case, need not come back to Plans Review Subcommittee.
Talking about the little shed by the pool.
Joel,
over
were you
by-
the seconder?
Yeah, yes, and I accept that.
Okay. Any further comment? All right, thanks for that. All right, I'll vote via roll call. Savannah, I say aye. Ricky,
Aye.
Joel,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Is any further discussion needed on this? Do you have any further need for instruction?
No, we're good. And
Okay.
if we need further instruction, I've got Jody's number.
Yeah, and Jody can check with Steve to, schedule as timely a meeting as needed.
Will do.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our fourth case at item 3D at 2218 East First Street, demolition of a pump house in the Sam Hughes National Register Historic District. It's a full review of this contributing resource. Can we get a summary, Jody?
Yes, so the pump house is owned ironically by the water department. And they had a request from the neighborhood actually to demolish it. From some people in the neighborhood to demolish it. It is a city-owned resource, and you were reviewing this under the AD 1-07.7. .07-7. I can't ever remember the dashes and the points. Because it's a city-owned property, it requires review of National Register listed properties by the Plans Review Subcommittee. Chris LaFleur from, well, previously the Water Department, now the City Manager's Office, put together the packet for your review. This is a similar review to the Firehouse Station 3 that you reviewed a few months ago, that was part of the Sunshine Mile, and that was proposed for demolition to construct a new fire station. So it's under the same umbrella. And so they're providing documentation of the building. Chris, you can share your screen. I made you a co-host so you can walk everybody through the building.
All right, thanks, Jody. Just give me a second here. All right, can you see my screen and can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks everybody for the time to go over this project today. Again, as Jody mentioned, I'm Chris LaFleur with the City Manager's Office. I have been coordinating the process for this property for about a year since former member, Councilmember Kozaczyk contacted Tucson Water with the request from the Sam Hughes Neighborhood Association to look into demolishing the structure at 2218 East First Street. The property from property records was purchased by Tucson Water in 1921. We don't have any exact details about the construction of the structure, but as near as we can tell, it was built sometime in the 1920s or 30s. This photo is probably sometime after 1934. That house directly behind the pump house to the left was built in 1934. So the pump house has been there since the early days of the Sam Hughes neighborhood. This view is looking towards the southeast. The intersection in the foreground is First Street and Plumer Avenue. This is the condition of that pump house today. This was a few years ago, so it's just so much in worse condition now than here in this photo. At some point prior to the recognition of the neighborhood as a National Historic Neighborhood in 1994, at some point prior to that point, the tower on top of the structure was removed. I can only imagine because it was structurally unsound and the well inside the structure was no longer in service. So this is the condition that the structure has been in for probably about 40 years. Incomplete roof, open to the elements, and deteriorating. This is from September of 2023, and the front half of the structure is built on top of 4-foot concrete stem walls with wood frame and plaster over metal lath. And it is, as you can see, disintegrating, and the northwest corner is kind of listing towards the interior of the building. The rear half of the structure is unsupported brick to a height of about 15 feet. And structure has not been maintained for 3 or 4 decades and is just in an advanced state of dilapidation. Equipment inside the well house includes a capped wellhead and a concrete and steel water tank. The well is, although it's not in production anymore for potable water, the well is still an access point for Tucson water hydrologists to monitor the aquifer under central Tucson. And it's actually the longest continuously monitored point of access in the city's aquifer. And it's been providing data for over a century. Going back to at least the mid-1990s, the city and the Sam Hughes neighborhood have been attempting to secure funding to engage partners in stabilizing, restoring, and maintaining both this well house and the sister well house down the street at 2498 East First Street. In 2013, the city secured a $100,000 community development block grant from HUD to stabilize and partially restore the sister structure called B4. And work on that structure was completed in 2016. And since then, additional funding opportunities have not been identified. So in June of last year, members of the neighborhood association contacted Ward 6 to ask for removal of the dilapidated structure, and Ward 6 contacted Tucson Water to follow up on that. And this is a diagram showing the restoration and stabilization work that was done in the identical structure at 2498 East First Street. And phase one of that project included just the stabilization and restoration of the existing structure. There were undeveloped plans to go ahead and add the historic profile of the water tower on top of that structure. Funds for that project have not materialized. That's the result of the restoration work done at Wellhouse B4. And again, the cost of that restoration work about a decade ago was $100,000. And in talking with the architect who designed the restoration plans for this project, ballpark estimates of doing similar work at the structure in question range from 2 to 4 times the cost of restoration for the structure a decade ago. So what is being proposed by Tucson Water with the structure at 2218 East First Street is to remove all but the existing concrete stem wall towards the northern half of the structure. And with the removal of everything on top of that and the wooden carriage doors on the west, east, and north side, proposal is to fill in the gaps in the concrete stone wall left by those doors and uniformly finish and paint that entire structure. So that would leave a roughly U-shaped 4-foot-high concrete stone wall that would be facing the street, and it would shield the equipment inside, which would be that concrete and steel tank, and the capped wellhead from street view. And the thinking behind leaving that concrete stem wall is that the removal of that would create vibrations in the site that could damage what remains of that historic well and well casing. And that kind of vibration damage could leave the well unable to serve as an access point for aquifer monitoring in the future. So with sensitivity to the neighborhood's request to remove the visual blight while also trying to preserve what's left of the asset as a useful monitoring point, the proposal is a near complete demolition, leaving just the concrete stem wall, and then finishing off by fencing off the entire property with access from the alleyway for Tucson Water maintenance staff. And that's all I had to present. I can answer any questions if there are any. And
This is Andrew. I do have a question. Which entity is responsible or should have been responsible for the maintenance of this structure? Was that Tucson Water?
yes, the property is owned by Tucson Water, and it's an asset of the water utility.
Okay. I mean, I think it's concerning that, you know, an asset owned by a city entity was allowed to reach this state of dilapidation. And we've been having a lot of conversations lately about private property that is experiencing demolition by neglect. And I think this is like one of the most extreme cases I've seen. So I don't know why did it get like this? Do you know?
I can't know. It's looking back into the history of this discussion, it's been going on for, almost 20 years in some form or other with former staff and former residents trying to find a funding source to restore and then to perform ongoing maintenance for the structure. And, I think that the maintenance and restoration of historical structures, I can't speak to why it wasn't maintained, dating back to 40 years ago. The removal of the initial tower before it was designated as a historical structure indicates that there was probably a lack of maintenance going on even before this was a contributing structure to the neighborhood. I can't speak for the policy before this point, but I can only say that maintenance of historic structures when they are not in the service of the water utility's primary function is probably out of the ballpark, or out of the expertise of the water utility. It just doesn't possess the expertise and the knowledge to maintain historic structures. And due to that, I think the funding has not been allocated to maintain the structure, and that's just continued over many years.
Do you have an idea of how many historic well houses like this the city currently owns?
I apologize. I got a call on the side there, and the audio.
Oh, you're fine.
Could you repeat that?
You're fine. Yeah. Do you have an idea of how many historic well houses like this the city owns?
The only other remaining historic well house is the identical structure down the street at First and Tucson Boulevard. This was it was a approach to infrastructure that I think was pretty short-lived. Most wells after this era were open air and were either fenced off or walled off. I think the reason this was constructed in the first place was because the older wells had, from what I've read in documentation and descriptions from the historic application for St. Hughes, there used to be a pump structure that included large pistons on top of the well, and the tower was built to shield those from view. So that was as far as I can tell, a pretty short-lived approach to well construction in the city. So there's just the one other structure remaining.
There's also, Andrew, just separate. There was a pump house that was moved during the Stone expansion over there. So that was in the last year and a half.
Yeah,
And they just moved it across the street.
Was that
Pump house
sold?
the pump house is a little bit different. It's not, this is actually connected to the aquifer. And the pump
Right.
house was to push water when it rained and filled up the underpass.
Oh, okay.
Pull the water out of the underpass.
They're just both labeled pump houses.
It's just totally little distinction, man. Dirty water, clean water, I don't know.
I did have a question. So this, the city does intend to use this still for that monitoring even after this building is gone, but are you just gonna leave it as an empty plot like that with that 4-foot cement wall?
That's the plan, yes. The Tucson Water does have, or has had, a policy in other well sites in Midtown. There have been other areas that have been had open space on these parcels have been partially repurposed as rain gardens or butterfly gardens with some neighborhood access. But the policy overall is to maintain ownership of the parcels, because at some point in the future, knowing that they're hydraulically productive sites, there is a possibility in the future of drilling an additional well on the site as backup infrastructure for the city's midtown water distribution. So it has future value as an infrastructure site, but there's no current plans for other uses on the site.
Okay. It is just really sad to see this. I mean, like looking at the pictures of how it currently looks today, it does not look structurally sound. So, like, I understand why people in the neighborhood are calling for it to be demolished, but also, like, I don't think the city of Tucson ever should have let it get to that state, unfortunately. But those are the only comments that I have about it. Thank you.
Who else had comments? Joel? Or sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Go ahead. If anyone else has anything, I can add mine at the end.
This is Joel. Yeah, I mean, I've, maybe the staff can fill me in. What is our policy? About when we look at these demolitions, do we have a policy of kind of, and this floats off Ricky's question, of, a proposal for the use after the demolition's allowed? You know what I mean?
And this time there's no proposal, I mean, it's gonna stay a well site.
Oh, I
So
see.
it's,
Okay.
they're not proposing, other than that stem wall, they're not proposing any new construction at the site. It's just gonna, they're just gonna, I mean, there's an existing fence that goes around the site, it's a chain link fence, if I recall correctly, and they're not doing anything, so you're reviewing this, I was just looking at the AD. One, to make sure that documentation that's been provided is acceptable. Is there anything else that you wanted to see documentation wise? For this? I will tell you, Chris put this documentation together. And then with the firehouse, that was done professionally by Westland Resources. The fire department hired Westland Resources to do that, which is why there's a little bit of a different look for it. But he does have all the information. And then some, because typically for documentation for demolition, you're just looking at photos and a floor plan, a measured floor plan, so this provides more than what's usually provided.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Thank you.
I was just talking to my partner because I saw him in some of the photos, and it did say that my office might have done some documentation for demolition. Is that right, PMM?
No, so Corky was in those photos along with me, because we were all out there looking at it. And initially, months and months ago, there was some discussion about what if we could find funding, what if the water department could find funding, could it be restored? Or should it be demolished? And as I understand it, when the decision, they couldn't find funding and the decision to move forward with the demolition, Corky said, that's not what we do. And it was kind of, that's not what we do, and you might wanna look for another architect to put this together, and Chris ended up putting a lot of this together.
All right, so it's City of Tucson, or your office's position, that all the documentation and everything has been satisfied and worthy of approval.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm asking you, is there more documentation that you would like to see for it? Anything additional?
I do have a couple things. I guess they're in the plans for the other tower from Vent, right? So Because I didn't, like on the elevations that are specific to this, there wasn't any like detail on the doors or anything like that, but I think if it's covered in the other one, maybe that's fine. I did wanna, I know on the fire station, we asked for some sort of interpretive installation to be put there. I think something like that would be appropriate here, since it's just kind of a vacant lot in the neighborhood. Maybe something that explains the history of these two towers and maybe directs you to the other one that's still there. I don't know.
Okay.
I think that would at least be nice since this, I mean, there is thankfully like a twin version of this that said that they're both not saved.
Yeah.
But at least you can see what it should have been here if the city had put money into it.
Can we maybe like request like a discussion on this with Tucson Water to make sure that maybe they're allocating money for the preservation of the only other one that's left now? Maybe they are earmarking something annually so that we don't have to like go out and get a grant every time we let something fall apart. Because now my understanding is once this is torn down, there'll only be one of these historic pump houses left in city possession. So I think we should make sure that that's like protected.
Think that that would be probably something that, Ken has that standing item on the full commission. I don't know that that would be appropriate to have that discussion through plans review subcommittee, but maybe the full commission.
Well, we could just send an email to like Ken, right? To suggest, hey, can you mention this at the next big meeting and just get started on contacting Tucson Water now?
Yeah, or to Terry or whatever. I mean, I would make sure that you run that
CC
through
Terry.
Terry first.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Do we, Chris, do you have any idea about there was like a phase 2 tower or whatnot of that other project? Is there any allocated funding for that in the near future?
There's not. And the neighborhood has engaged a couple of times to kind of try to work on getting that development going. There's just been there's no mechanism for getting the funding going, and then the ongoing maintenance afterward is a real challenge. Yeah, again, it's not something that is really Tucson Water's forte, and it's not something that the neighborhood has been either able or willing to take responsibility for. So Tucson Water is, yeah, I think a little bit wary of taking on a funding responsibility that's outside of its primary scope of water service and water quality. There maybe is room for discussion with other city departments, maybe parks. There maybe is the kind of thing where there can be a cross-departmental conversation about creating, it was envisioned as being, as you said, an interpretive site that has a connection to the history of water service in the city. And maybe there's room for that kind of future for the site, but it would take some coordination and the funding to make it happen.
I'm just a little confused then, because isn't it also the responsibility of Tucson Water to maintain its facilities, regardless of whether those facilities are historical or not? So shouldn't there already be some money set aside towards maintaining those buildings? Is that just like a supposedly if somebody is doing their job right?
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have insight into all of the maintenance funding and the the prioritization of funds, yes, there should be funding allocated for maintenance of facilities. And for those facilities that are active production facilities, that's the case. I think there's maybe the historical designation may also create a little bit of hesitance for maintenance staff that are not knowledgeable in maintaining historic structures. So there might be a little bit of just wariness of approaching the site and just leaving it be, and with the predictable results over many years.
Jan, did you have any further comment?
No, support the concerns that have been expressed. I do like the idea of an interpretive sign about what was there, perhaps referring folks to the existing structure that remains, especially because, I mean, it sounds like the neighborhood was tired of looking at it and wanted it torn down, but it's not going to be an attractive property with just a concrete block wall and a chain link fence. So it would be nice to have a little bit of history, so people that walk by at least have a sense of what's going on.
All right, well, how are we feeling as a body that needs to make a decision?
I feel like motion to like we would include a motion that to demolish it, I guess, but to request that interpretive signage put in. It just, looking at this building now, it's so far gone that the walls aren't even supported.
I think on the last one, wasn't it something along the lines of, did we consider the documentation adequate or something like that? Is that right, Jody?
So I mean, you don't have to say you're approving the demolition. You can just say that the documentation that's been provided is adequate and we recommend interpretive signage on the site.
Okay.
So it's
one question, you're infilling where there were doors in the concrete wall, is that right? Just to make a continuous kind of border, is that right?
That's right.
Or
That's
buffer
right.
to your equipment?
Right, just so it's it serves as a visual barrier to the remaining equipment inside the structure.
Okay, I mean, I guess that will be clear at new concrete next to old concrete. So it just seemed a little disingenuous, but if there's a kind of a distinction there, you can kind of see the ruin of the original. Okay. What else?
Would you want that in a motion, Savannah?
I mean, I think it'll happen naturally because that's what will happen with cold joints and concrete, but sure, yeah, distinguishing infill from existing, since they are doing some new work added.
Okay, and then recommend. I think last time we phrased it differently. It wasn't just to recommend interpretive signage or recommend. I don't know. Are we okay with signage, or does somebody want a different word that's not just a sign?
Well, I mean, we could say something that
some form of interpretation. Just keep it a little open.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jan?
Some form of interpretation of the existing structure and perhaps reference or direction to the one that remains, or I don't know.
I have a motion, unless Andrew, unless you had one that you wanted to say.
Nope, go for it.
Okay. So on the matter of TC/DMO dash 0524-00105 2218 East First Street. PRS finds that there's sufficient documentation for this, but we do recommend distinguishing the infill of the 4-foot concrete from the existing, and recommend some form of interpretation of the history of the structure and reference to the remaining pump house.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Jan.
Thanks, Jan. All right, any further discussion, comments, or additions? Okay, great. We'll vote via roll call. Savannah, I say aye. Ricky?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. What's next, Jody?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
That was our last project to review. Now it's the ever fun public and institutional use in a development zone discussion, but we're just kind of keeping that. We're like working like the commission. So I'm gonna keep this as a standing item, like the commission does with items. We don't have to discuss since some people are absent today, or.
Yeah, and as the person who brought this up, I mean, we talked about wanting to have everybody here, perhaps an agenda where it's not packed. You know, this was sadly more urgent when we thought perhaps there was a way to handle it more administratively, but honestly, if it's going to be thrown in with a bunch of code changes, it's going to be a while. But that is not to say to put it off forever, but it's not quite the burning issue if we have to get in line with the big wad. But what, Jody, what's the time? You're going to have some code amendments for the ADU stuff and everything, aren't you?
Yeah, there'll be code amendments for the ADU, but I don't know that those are necessarily housed under 5.8. I don't know yet. I
So
mean,
we not only have to wait for a code amendment package, but it has to be the precise section. Because I mean, this got dumped in when they were doing Rio Nuevo. So I mean, it's kind of.
it was discussed and it was a intentional inclusion when they were doing Nuevo. But I would say that, you know, again, I think when we discussed that you could, you know, approach one of the council members and get them to sponsor this and move it forward, and it would be you know, they would go take it to council, and would be initiated, and staff would then start to work on it.
Okay.
It seems like we should keep it on the agenda, talk about it more thoroughly when more are here and are present, right? And fine tune what it is that we would propose changing, right? Jan, or do you have a good sense of what
and
that is?
the first, probably the first part is just to make sure that everybody has reviewed the material and is familiar and has questions or knows kind of what they're thinking about it, so we could have an informed discussion whenever it comes up, which is hard because if it comes up in a few weeks, I know for me, I have to go back and kind of figure out what's going on. But at least having some initial sense, so it's not like the first read when all of a sudden it is being discussed and everybody's trying to. So that's my only thing. And then, as soon as there's an opening, like if we have a short agenda, maybe we could, it looks like we're going to have a full house, and we could even say, hey, come prepared.
What does our next meeting look like, Jody? Is everyone in attendance?
I was supposed to ask about that. Our next
I guess that's at the end of the agenda, but it's kind of relevant.
The next meeting is the 20th, and it'll be all capstone. So Joel will not be able to participate.
Okay.
But you all need to think about being there, the rest of you.
Yeah, the next time we have a meeting then is July 11th.
20th.
It's next
June
30. It's
Well,
next
June
Thursday.
20th, but that's the one that Joel won't be at. But the next one then that possibly all of us would be at would be July 11th.
Correct. In theory.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay.
All right. Well, we had some discussion on it, so check.
Good job, Savannah.
Task Force on Inclusivity Report Recommendations, 5A, discussion on best practices for naming of city and county-owned physical assets. Does anyone have an update on this item?
It's Terry's item.
There's
Oh,
no
and Ricky.
update.
Ricky's working on it.
Ricky.
Ricky?
Yeah, no updates.
Okay. Moving on, current issues for information discussion, item 6A, which is minor reviews. Would this be you, Michael, for a staff update?
Yes, we just have one minor review to report, which we did today with Ricky at 6:00.
This was the one that Jan had talked about 2 weeks ago that she had mentioned. 620 North 6th Avenue. I felt cursed. He wants to build the sidewall of the house, which is sidewall fence, which is currently a wooden fence, and he wants to replace it with a concrete stuccoed fence or wall that would be 7 feet tall. So yeah, which is against UDC. He didn't want to go through the approval process, so he said he's going to lower it to 6 feet. But at the end of the review, he said, "Oh, and I also want to add a gate," which was not at all mentioned or in the plans. So Rick and I both voted to have it be continued, and we got the updated plans this afternoon. So hopefully we'll have something on that in the next week or so.
Okay, that's it.
Thanks.
Item 6B, appeals, if there are any to report on.
No appeal at this time.
All right. What about 6C, zoning violations?
We're continuing to do the same thing, work with Rick to come up with creative solutions to get these people who have not done the right thing to come to the process. So it's an ongoing process.
Okay, thank you, Michael. All right, 6D, review process issues. Anyone have an item to discuss?
I just have a question. I know it's hard to track everything, but is there a way, like when we see that first item, if we had a link to or a note that said, reviewed by PRS, because we often have, if it's been to the neighborhood more than once, we have reference to that.
Yeah.
There's a way to kind of have that.
To be honest, I forgot that you guys saw that in December. It just slipped my mind that you guys saw that in December until you said it, and then I dug it
So
out.
nothing flags with the addresses or anything, or like when the person comes in and the system should be able to say, this is an ongoing, no? Okay.
I have done before, I've tried to link it before, but to like when it's been a really long time that you've seen it, so I linked it, but this one it slipped my mind that you had seen it.
Okay.
Well, it seemed, yeah, I mean, that's on our end, but also was on the applicant's end, right? Like they didn't get a reminder of what they were supposed to.
It's like it never happened.
Yeah, I mean, we did ask for, I mean, I had to pull up the old photo, right? When we had asked for kind of a side-by-side.
Yeah.
Here's what we have, here's
And
what
he
we're
didn't do any
proposing
of that, yeah.
to facilitate our review, which would have taken, what, a quarter of the time if they had done that. So that's good to note. Thank you, Jan. All right. Anyone else for review process issues? Okay. Item 7, summary of public comments. Were there any for these cases?
We did not receive any.
Okay. And then item 8, future agenda items for upcoming meetings. We discussed that was capstone next Thursday. Is there anything else for next Thursday, or is it exclusively capstone?
No, you requested that capstone be the only item on the agenda, so they will be the only item on the agenda.
Is this
Okay.
capstone like the actual plot on Speedway and Euclid, or like capstone like the part that is in the West University area?
It's the relocated houses.
Okay.
So yes, the ones in West University. Well,
That will be going to West University.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, what we saw prior to this was just a courtesy, right? Like a preliminary
Correct.
version.
Yeah. And
So
then
it'll be the
you'll,
final.
yeah, so this will be your full formal review of those. And then you will also later on see the new construction proposed for the site. And there is one demolition that's attached to the back of one of the buildings. It's actually staying there that you'll see.
But those are separate from next week. That's just later at some
Next
point.
week, yes, it's the project that keeps giving.
I feel like I've been looking at this project for 3 years.
Ricky, I've been working on this project since I started here.
All right, and then should we talk about July 11th? Is everyone generally available?
Yeah.
Well, July 20th, let's go back, or sorry, June 20th. Joel can't participate. Terry said she will be here, but what about the rest of you?
I'll be here.
Yeah, I'll be here.
And you'll be there, and Jan, you don't know?
I've just got some uncertainty here with medical
Okay.
stuff going on, and it's kind of day to day, week to week, so.
So that'll give me 4. Yeah, Ricky said she would be there, so Jan will be there, so as long as Terry's there, then we should be good. And if you can make it, Jan, then that's just the sprinkles
I'll
on
be there.
top.
Be gravy.
So the 27th is still showing up as an event for me in my calendar, but that's the one that's canceled,
That's
right?
Yeah, that's because I'm always afraid to delete calendar appointments, because then I think, God, it's gonna delete all of them, and I don't want it to do that if I only want to delete one. So I am
The occurrence,
technologically
not the
challenged.
series.
I know, it's the occurrence versus the series, but it freaks me out. I'll just be honest.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
technologically challenged most times. And then, yeah, so then July 11th, there'll be other items on there. Will most of you be able to make it to July 11th?
I'll be there.
Yep, I'll be there.
I'll
too.
be control either.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
All right.
And then-
Wait, did you want to keep going at the calendar, Jody?
No, I would just say that it's adjournment. You would ask me before, what's next? So I'm like,
Well, that was I wasn't sure if that applicant needed more instruction, but I think he knew he was ready to leave by that point. All right, item 9, adjournment. So we'll adjourn at 3:15 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Well, Savannah, you ran a good
Thank
meeting.
you.
thank you, everybody.
job.
Yeah, thanks.
I tried.
Yes.
I just embraced the Terry.
That's all you can do. Thank you.
All right.
All right,
Thank you
see
guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It's weird. I have to go over here.